This is the lecture from the on the male reproductive system for the pre-med students 211 for the session spring 2020. Now, by the end of the lecture, students should be able to list the components of the male reproductive system and its accessory glands, discuss the anatomy of the scrotal sac, and then they will be also able to describe the structure of the testis along with its coverings, types of cells, and blood supply. Then they will be also able to discuss a system, male reproductive system, in terms of epididymis, ductus deferens, ejaculatory duct, penis, spermatic cord, inguinal ligament, canal, and its contents, prostate gland, seminal vesicle, and bulbourethral gland. Okay, this is the male reproductive organs. First one is scrotum. Scrotum is a pouch of skin which encloses and protects the testis. So this testis that is here, this testis is a male genital organ, and it is kept in the bag of skin that is hanging outside, that is included in the external genitalia. So that is called as the scrotum. Then the testis, the male primary sex organ, this structure. Ducts, the main ducts are epididymis. Epididymis is what? Is the testis, and this structure, this C-shaped structure, this is the epididymis here. And can you see here, this one, there is the epididymis, the coil of tubes that are connected with the testis. Then ductus deferens or vas deferens. So from this epididymis, the tail of the epididymis starts a duct, right? So all these ducts, they join together to form one single duct from the tail. So from the tail arises a long tube. That tube is called as the ductus deferens. So ductus deferens, or sometimes vas deferens. Then ejaculatory duct. This ductus deferens keep on going upward. It enter into the abdominal cavity through inguinal canal, and this duct ultimately it enlarges here. So this is the ampulla part, and this duct then connects with the seminal vesicle, and seminal vesicle and this vas deferens, they join together to form an ejaculatory duct, and ejaculatory duct penetrate this gland that is below the urinary bladder. This is the posterior view of the urinary bladder, and below the urinary bladder in males we have got the prostate gland. So this ductus deferens ampullary part, the distended part, last part, and the gland, this seminal vesicle, both of them, they join together, and when they join together, the common duct is called as the ejaculatory duct that penetrates this prostate gland and opens into the urethra. The urethra that is coming from the urinary bladder, that urethra that is passing through the prostate is called prostatic urethra. So this ejaculatory duct opened in the prostatic urethra, then prostatic urethra, then there is the membranous urethra that passes through the muscles, right? And then after passing through the muscle, it entered into the penis. So there is a penile urethra, so there is a very long penis here. So ejaculatory duct, then urethra. Accessory reproductive glands that assist and support the reproductive system. Prostate gland, as we have discussed here, this is the location. So it also gives prostatic secretions to the prostatic urethra. Then seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle is this one that joins with the ductus deferens in the end and form the ejaculatory duct. So in the ejaculatory duct, there are secretions from the seminal vesicle, and the secretion in the form of sperm and the liquid, it is coming from the vas deferens, both through the ejaculatory duct, they open to the prostatic urethra. Then the penis, the erectile organ. This structure is called as the erectile bodies. So the urethra passes through this red color central body called as the corpus spongiosum, and this laterally placed, this one, they are superior and lateral, so they are called as corpus cavernosum. So this is corpus spongiosum and this one corpus cavernosum. Okay, starting with this slide, The scrotum. Scrotum, we have discussed that there is the bag of skin that keeps the testis, the main primary sex organ. So this is the picture of scrotum when the penis is lifted upward. So this is the scrotal skin. So there are two halves, and in the middle you can see this line. This line is actually a fibrous junction, because the right and left part, the right and left pouches of the scrotum, they are united here in the middle. The scrotum is a cutaneous fibromuscular sac of for the testis. So what it keeps the testis inside. So it is fibromuscular. So this sac that is keeping the testis, this sac is consisting of fibers and the muscles. So that's why it's called fibromuscular. It contains the testis, epididymis, and the lower part of the spermatic cord. Where is testis? This is the testis. And where is epididymis? Outside the epididymis at the posterior medial side, we have got this epididymis. Epididymis is usually seen above the testis, right? So it is coming from the back side and it is visible on the superior. So epididymis. Then the tail of the epididymis starts a duct, and that duct ascends upward. So this white colored duct, this duct is the vas deferens, and these are the arteries, veins, and the coverings. So these upper structure, they combine to form the spermatic cord. This is a cord-like structure. So here in the cord we have got the ductus deferens, arteries, veins, the muscular part. So we have got the spermatic cord above the testis. So the lower part of the spermatic cord is this one. So they are all kept in this pouch of skin called as the scrotum. It is situated posterior inferior to the penis. The penis is lifted upward, so the penis is anterior. So this is, scrotum is posterior inferior. It is inferior and posterior to the penis and inferior to the pubic symphysis. Pubic symphysis, yes, this bone can be palpated. So below this one, this scrotum is existing. Is located. Externally, the midline scrotal raphe is continuous on the ventral surface of the penis. So this raphe, this is actually a fibrous connection between the two half of the fibromuscular bag, and this raphe is continuous anteriorly on the skin, but it will go and it will also come onto the ventral surface of the penis. The ventral surface of the penis is considered when the penis is erected. When it is standing, so the front part, that part is called as the ventral part, and the back part at the standing position or erect position, that back part is called as the dorsal part. So when it is not erectile, it is bending downward. So the anterior surface is actually the posterior one, and the posterior is anterior. In the next slide, the testes, we will talk about the testes. Testes are paired, oval, mobile organ located in the scrotum, produces sperm and secretes hormone. So sperms are produced within the testes. Where in the testes? In the seminiferous tubules. Can you see this seminiferous tubules here? So these tubules, seminiferous tubules, they are connected with straight tubules. Can you see this straight tubule between the seminiferous coiling here and this straight tubule? Now this straight tubule of all the seminiferous tubules, they are connecting with this structure called as the rete testis. So rete testis is posteromedial to each testis, and where the straight tubules coming from the seminiferous tubule in continuation, it opens to the rete testis, and from the rete testis is again continuous with the head of the epididymis by means of efferent ductules. So this ductule that is connecting between the rete testis of present inside the testis, now this tube is connecting outside structure of the testis, that is the epididymis. And epididymis has got three parts: head of the epididymis, the middle part, the body of the epididymis, and the lower part that converts all these tubes together and form a one big tube. So that is called the tail of the epididymis. This tube is called as the vas deferens. It is coiling backward, ascending up, 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 and this one is coming to the superior, going to the abdomen. This is the ductus deferens. Now this is the continuation: seminiferous tubule, straight tubule, rete testis, efferent ductule, head of epididymis only, not the body of the epididymis, not the tail of the body of the epididymis, but these are doing what? They are all converging together to form an ultimate single duct called as the ductus deferens. Now coming to the coverings of the testis. Now these are the seminiferous tubules. They are present in lobules. Can you see these lobules, right? These compartments, they are called the lobule. Now tunica vaginalis, tunica albuginea. Can you see this double layer of membrane? It is just like the pericardium, pleura and the peritoneum. This is a double layer of peritoneum here in reality, because it came, this testis actually initially in the fetal life it was in the lumbar region, and then it migrate from the lumbar region to come here in the scrotum, and while doing so it takes the peritoneal covering that was covering only the anterior part, not the posterior part. So only the anterior part that is covered by the this layer of peritoneum. So that peritoneum, while coming into the scrotum, it is called as the tunica vaginalis. Tunica vaginalis, parietal layer and visceral layer. So visceral layer is actually running on the surface of the testis, and the parietal layer making a U-turn, and it covers the wall of the scrotum, means the inner surface of the skin of the scrotum, and between these two there is a space. So this is the tunica vaginalis, right? Outer peritoneal covering has visceral and parietal layer. Then tunica albuginea. Tunic means layer. Tunica albuginea, white in color. So tunica albuginea is the lower one. Now can you see this testis, very egg-like structure where my pointer is running? This is actually an egg-like, shell-like structure. The shell of the testis is thick fibrous structure, fibrous connective tissue. So this fibrous connective tissue, this is called as tunica albuginea. So this is also called as the capsule that covers, that encloses something. It encloses the seminiferous tubules. So this thick outer covering is called tunica albuginea. From this tunica albuginea, thick connective tissue, fibrous connective tissue, there goes extension, fibrous extension inside the testis. So these are the fibrous extensions called as the septum. So these septums, they are actually the inward extension of the outer covering, the tunica albuginea. So at tunica albuginea is here. These are the septum derived from the tunica albuginea. Now, why this septum, they divide the inner cavity of the testis into compartments, and those compartments, they are sometimes called as the lobules, right? So those inside this compartment, lobules, what is contained inside? They have got seminiferous tubules. Now tunica albuginea, inner dense fibrous capsule of the testis. So this is the fibrous capsule of the testis. Series of septa pass inward into the fibrous capsule to divide the testis into 250 to 300 lobules. So this one compartment, that are how many? 250 to 300 lobules. In this picture it is showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but in fact they are very small and very compact, and they are around 250 to 300 lobules like this, compartments like this, and within each lobule we have got 1 to 3 tightly coiled seminiferous tubules. These seminiferous tubules, they are not one, they are not single, but here you can see these straight tubules, 1, 2. So they are 3 in numbers, usually 1 to 3 tightly coiled. Tightly coiled means it is high under pressure. Means if you make an incision in the testis, these seminiferous tubules will bulge out immediately, because they were so compactly pressurized and kept within this lobule, within this compartment. Then come to this descent of the testis. Testis descent that I was talking about. The testis, the original place in the fetal life was in the lumbar region, and then it start to descend at the 7th month, right? So in weeks are here. So this is the cut section of the fetus showing this testis present in the lumbar region. This is the rectum and this is the pubic symphysis. this is the emerging in the male penis, right? And lower down here it will, the scrotum will develop, right? So this is the scrotum and this is the penis. Now testis has to come into the scrotum, but initially where it was in week 7, it was in the lumbar region, and then this testis is connected by a ligament called as gubernaculum. This gubernaculum, its lower end is attached to the skin of the scrotum, right? And from that part it start to pull this testis, because the other end of the ligament is attached to the lower pole of the testis. So from here this gubernaculum start to contract, shrink, reduce by apoptotic mechanism. So this testis start to come down, it is pulled down, and all its way it passes from the abdomen into the scrotum. While doing so, the abdominal cavity, this peritoneal cavity with the parietal peritoneum, this parietal peritoneum, it gives a process. A process means extension. So this peritoneum lower extension into the scrotum. So this scrotum has got a lower extension of the parietal peritoneum, right? So parietal peritoneum is here. So along with the testis, what is coming from the abdomen? The anterior part, anterior to the scrotum, the part of the peritoneum. So now here, this pathway is closed, peritoneum is closed, right? This dotted line, this pathway, peritoneal pathway is closed, and testis is inside, and you can see the gubernaculum size. It's very small but attached to the floor of the scrotum. And anterior to the testis, what is there? It is the peritoneal cavity. So that peritoneal cavity sometimes remain and become a cause of hydrocele, means sometimes plasma accumulate in that cavity, in that space, and it become enlarged. So that condition is called hydrocele, means herniation due to water, of the water. And can you see this double layer? It is coming here. It is a double layer, double layer, double layer, double layer upward. And here you can see this separation. And what is this? Parietal peritoneum. So this is the abdominal cavity, and from there it is just showing that this cavity that is anterior to the testis, that is called the tunica vaginalis. So tunica vaginalis is actually just like pleura. So tunica vaginalis is double layered, just like pleura, just like pericardium, just like peritoneal layers. So tunica vaginalis, anteriorly we have got the cavity. Now testes are formed in the abdomen, then descend to the scrotum. Sperms are not produced at core body temperature. Why this descent is important physiologically? Because the core abdominal temperature, when the baby is delivered and then the temperature of the body is then recorded, it is 37 degrees centigrade core body temperature. Where the spermatogenesis cannot occur, this temperature is very high. They can kill the sperms. That's why God has made them to go out of the core body. So when they go out, they descend downward and come to a pouch, a skin-like pouch, the scrotum. So they are kept outside the body just to maintain its temperature and spermatogenesis can occur. Descent of the testis through the inguinal canal takes place during the 7th month of development. Condition in which testis, 7th month, this is the start, right? Start of descending downward. Then by the end of 9th month, they come to the scrotum, right? Condition in which testes do not descend is called cryptorchidism. Cryptorchidism, cryptor means hidden, chidism, chid means testis, Latin word. Now this slide that is related with the types of cells in the testis. If you make a testis, I told you there is a cut section of the testis. The tunica vaginalis is removed. So you can see the outer capsule, the tunica albuginea with the septum coming from the tunica albuginea, and the compartments, the lobules containing the seminiferous tubules, and those are coming with retitestis with the head of epididymis only, body of epididymis, tail of epididymis, ductus deferens, right? Now make this one seminiferous tubule. Just take one seminiferous tubule, out of this lobule and make a cut section of the seminiferous tubules. This cut section will enlarge, just enlarge this part. This is the epithelium, inner epithelium. That is called stratified cuboidal epithelium. If you see this thing, you will find cells, and here you will find two different types of cells. One is this cell, just like this pink color. This is the nucleus of the cell, called as Sertoli cells. So Sertoli cells or sustentacular cells, sometimes called supporting cells, which nourish, protect and assist in the release of mature sperm. This is the mother of the process of spermatogenesis, and these are the cells that are protected and nourished by the Sertoli cells, and these are the daughter spermatids that are formed as an end result of the process of spermatogenesis. So from spermatogonia, spermatocytes, type 1, type 2 spermatocytes, then spermatids and spermatogonia. Spermatogenic cells produces sperms. Spermatogenic cells means spermatogonia, right? Sperm producing cells. Interstitial Leydig cells. Now, this circle, the seminiferous tubule, this circle is this circle, right? And these cells, these are the Sertoli cells, like this one, right? The pink color with the nucleus, there is a nucleus and nucleolus. So there is the nucleus, Sertoli cells, and between the Sertoli cells, these are the mother cells, right? You will find the process of spermatogenic cells starting with the spermatogonium. So spermatogonia, plural, this is the first layer of cells called spermatogonia. Second layer, spermatocyte type 1. Third layer, spermatocyte part 2, and then we have got spermatid. So spermatid is inside the lumen of the tube. So okay, now this is the tube. Come to the outside of the tube. Outside the tube, within the lobules, right? Outside the tubes, you'll find this aggregation of cells. These cells are called as the Leydig cells. Leydig for the scientists, it's called the cell, Leydig cells. And what is the purpose of this cell? These are the primary testosterone producing cells. Now epididymis we have got, it is 7 meter long. Means you can see testis, tunica albuginea, septum, lobules compartment, 200 to 300, seminiferous tubule. Seminiferous tubule connected with the ratty testis by means of straight tubules, right? And this ratty testis is connected only with the head of the epididymis by means of efferent ductules, right? So efferent ductules, you can see so many ductules, ductules, coiling. But these coils, they merge together, merge, body. Then the tail of epididymis arises, from the tail of the epididymis arises the one single duct called as the ductus deferens or vas deferens, and this ascends up in the spermatic cord. Now epididymis, now he is talking about this C-shaped structure, head, body, tail. Efferent ductules from the testis open into the epididymis, extend from the upper pole of the testis and continues with the ductus deferens, continues as the ductus deferens. Epididymis, head of the epididymis connected with the ratty testis, the testis, and the tail of the epididymis is connected or gives to the ductus deferens. So head, body, tail leads to the ductus deferens function. What is the function of this epididymis, the C shape that is above the testis and behind the testis? So this is for the stores sperms and facilitates maturation. So if there is any damage to this one, so the newly formed, the baby sperm that are coming here, they cannot mature because the maturation is taking place in the epididymis. Always remember, sperms are ejaculated from the epididymis. So from the epididymis, mature sperms now that are capable of swimming, right? They can swim in the duct, right? Now come to the blood supply. Blood supply, can you see this kidney, right? These are aorta and these are the common iliac, right and left common iliac division, and then right and left common iliac divided into internal iliac and external iliac. External iliac crosses the inguinal ligament and continues in the lower limb as the femoral artery, while the internal iliac, it goes inside the pelvis. Internal iliac goes inside the pelvis, external iliac goes outside the pelvis into the lower limb. Now in the internal iliac artery, you can see these two branches coming from the internal iliac, right? That artery is called differential artery, means ductus deferens. One artery for the ductus deferens, right? another artery that is coming from abdominal aorta. This artery in the males, testicular artery. So testicular artery directly goes and supplies the testis. So for the testis, the blood supply is testicular artery. For the ductus deferens, the blood supply is through the differential artery or artery to the ductus deferens. And the third one is cremasteric artery. Cremasteric artery, it is another artery that is supplying the cremasteric muscle. This muscle will come in the spermatic cord. Actually, cremasteric muscle is the extension of the internal oblique muscle of the abdomen. So always remember. Now come to the blood supply. The testicular arteries to the testis arise from the abdominal aorta. Testicular artery arising from where? From the abdominal aorta, direct branch. Now come to the venous drainage of the testis and epididymis is through the pampiniform plexus, venous plexus. At the upper pole of the testis is formed the testicular vein. Now pampiniform plexus, can you say this? Pampiniform plexus means anastomosis. You can say anastomosis of the venous veins, that is called pampiniform plexus. But this pampiniform plexus is above the testis, right? So above the testis while running through the spermatic cord. So spermatic cord is the cord that keeps all the contents coming from the testis and the ductus deferens arteries. They enter into the abdomen. So while entering and piercing the wall of the abdomen, they form a cord. So that cord is called spermatic cord. So within the spermatic cord, there is a venous plexus called pampiniform venous plexus. And where it will drain? It drains differently on the different sides, on the right side and on the left side. On the left side, it drains into the vein that is draining the kidney, called as the renal vein. While on the right side, again pampiniform plexus is also there, right? But they form the right testicular vein, and that right testicular vein open or drain directly into the inferior vena cava in the abdomen, right? Just like the testicular artery here, here we have got the testicular vein. So right testicular vein is there, that is opening into the inferior vena cava, but the left testicular vein, it does not open into the inferior vena cava, but it opens into the left renal vein. And sometimes in the males, there is more problem on the left side with the hydroceles and all these things, just because the vein is not opening directly or draining into the inferior vena cava, but they are opening into a smaller vein, the renal vein. Now this is a slide. This is the wonderful slide showing after the testis how the testis is covered up and how the structure what we were calling the spermatic cord. So this is a cord that is coming that is between the scrotum testis and to the abdomen. So this long cord is called the spermatic cord. Just like this here in the circle, they have made a spermatic cord showing that this is the cord. Now what is the purpose of this cord and this content inside and the layer? Because this testis is outside. Actually it was in the lumbar, but for the spermatogenesis the temperature requirement is low. So the temperature in the scrotum is usually 1 degree low. So that's why it gets out. But when it gets out, the ductus deferens that is coming from the epididymis, right? And that ductus deferens, it has to go inside the abdomen to be released into the urethra, and the urethra is coming out through the penis. This is the cut part of the penis. So the urethra is here. So how to send the sperm up to the urethra? Urethra is a continuation of the urinary bladder. So till urethra, this ductus deferens has to reach, and urethra and the bladder, they are inside the pelvic region of the abdomen. So that's why this ductus deferens, along with its artery, veins, all of them with the coverings, they form a spermatic cord, and this cord actually they penetrate the wall of the abdomen. So this is the wall of the abdomen, and then there is an opening at the wall of the abdomen. That opening is called as the superficial inguinal ring. So this is a rounded opening through which this spermatic cord enter into the abdomen, right? And this now we will discuss later on about the inguinal canal, because here there is a canal to pass in, then it will enter into the abdomen. Now come to this portion, spermatic cord. What is this? From here to here, how many coverings are there? What contents are there? So first come to the coverings of the spermatic cord. Now the coverings of the spermatic cord, can you see this fascia? This fascia is cut down, right? But this fascia is actually the fascia, the same fascia as this one, and this fascia is actually a continuation of the external oblique muscle. Which muscle is there in the abdominal wall? The outermost muscle is the external oblique muscle. And you know, external oblique muscle, when it comes on the medial and lower side of the abdomen, on the anterior side, it becomes epineurotic. So that epineurotic part, this is the epineurotic part that is extending downward into the scrotum to cover the testis. So this superficial fascia, this outermost fascia, is actually the downward extension of the epineurosis of the external oblique muscle. So this is here epineurosis of external oblique muscle, right? So this is the first fascia, the outermost fascia that is coming from the outermost abdominal wall, external oblique. Now the second layer, after this fascial layer, epineurotic part, can you see this muscular part? This is the muscular part that is coming from the muscular part of the internal oblique. So after this superficial fascia, the epineurotic part. So which fascia is this? This is the external spermatic fascia. External spermatic fascia is actually the epineurotic part of the external oblique muscle. Now come to the, after external spermatic fascia, the second layer is cremasteric fascia and cremasteric muscle. This is the muscle part shown here, right? And this is the muscular part shown here also, right? Now this is a muscular second layer, right? Inner, just below the external spermatic fascia, there is a layer, muscular layer called as muscular fascia, and this muscular cremasteric muscle, and this muscle is a continuation of internal oblique muscle. After the external oblique, which muscle come? The middle layer, internal oblique. Internal oblique muscle give muscular extension into the scrotum, covering the testis, and that extending muscle fiber is called cremasteric muscle. And this muscle, when sometimes if you observe in the patient that there is a cremasteric reflex, means when you palpate the medial side of the thigh, this internal oblique muscle, since it is a muscle, it contracts, and when it contracts, it lifts the testis along in the scrotum. So whole scrotum along with this testis ascends upward due to the muscle fiber that contracted, and it lifts the testis upward. So that was the cremasteric reflex. Now after this fascia, so this outer layer is external spermatic fascia, that is a continuation of epineurosis of the external oblique. Second, this layer is cremasteric muscle, right? So cremasteric muscle is the second layer. After this cremasteric muscular layer, the third layer is coming again from the third fascia. So internal spermatic fascia is the third layer from outside. So external spermatic fascia, then cremasteric muscle and cremasteric fascia, and then the internal spermatic fascia. Internal spermatic fascia, that is continuation of the third layer of the abdomen, that is the transversus abdominis. So which is the third layer of the abdominal wall? Transversus abdominis muscle. So transversus abdominis muscle also form epineurosis, and that epineurotic fibrous part, it goes downward, form the spermatic cord, layers of the spermatic cord, innermost layer, and then it also covers the testis. So in the testis you will find internal spermatic fascia. So internal spermatic fascia is the continuation of the epineurotic part of the third innermost layer of the abdomen, the transversus abdominis. So superficial fascia with the dartos muscle. Okay, we will discuss this. External spermatic fascia, cremasteric fascia, internal spermatic fascia. And after this internal spermatic fascia, what comes to the testis? In front of the testis, we have got double layer of tunica vaginalis. So we have got tunica vaginalis, which is closed sac that covers each testis. Now come to this part, superficial fascia after the skin. Now this is what we have talked about, the spermatic cord, right? Now this spermatic cord covers with external spermatic fascia, cremasteric muscle and cremasteric fascia, and the internal spermatic fascia, Now these are all related to the spermatic cord, right? So when you come to spermatic cord, you will discuss external spermatic fascia, cremasteric muscle and fascia, and internal spermatic fascia. That is all related with this ring, spermatic cord. Now come to the skin of the scrotum. In the skin of the scrotum, you will find skin and the superficial fascia with the dartos muscle. The superficial fascia of the scrotum, because this is the skin, and this is the scrotum, right? This scrotum is covered by the skin, and below the skin you have got the superficial fascia, the deep fascia. The dartos muscle is present in the deeper layer. So below the superficial fascia, you have got the dartos muscle. So dartos muscle also helps in the contraction of the scrotum. So but dartos muscle is below the superficial fascia of the skin. It is not a part of the spermatic cord. Spermatic cord is this. Here in these three layers, the external spermatic fascia, the cremasteric muscle and the cremasteric fascia, and the internal spermatic fascia. These are the coverings of the spermatic cord, right? And these spermatic cord, they also cover the testis, right? But testis is inside the scrotum. Scrotum is the skin layer, skin bag, and in that skin, below the superficial fascia of the skin, we have got the dartos muscle. So dartos muscle is not a component of the spermatic cord. It is below the superficial fascia of the skin. Now again come to the spermatic cord. Spermatic cord from the scrotum, from the testis, just like here. Now this is the three layers that covers the testis, the three layers that form the cord. This is the spermatic cord. Now this cord is going and penetrating the abdominal wall, right? And then enter into the abdominal cavity to go and ultimately drain into the urethra, prostatic urethra. Now to come inside the abdomen, so what is here in the cord? Arteries, veins, nerves, ductus deferens, and the coverings of the spermatic cord, they are external spermatic fascia, cremasteric fascia and muscle, and then internal spermatic fascia. Now this is the spermatic cord. From testis to the abdomen. From testis to the abdomen there is a cord called as spermatic cord. Why this cord is here? Because this testis, while coming out from the abdomen, it keeps all these layers of the muscles, the external oblique, the internal oblique, the transversus abdominis, their epineurotic part and their muscular part, to come out into the testis, right? So that's why the spermatic cord coverings, they are coming from these three abdominal walls, right? Now this spermatic cord, it has to enter into the abdominal cavity, and they have to penetrate the wall. But the wall is not composed of one muscle, it is composed of three muscles, right? So it has to pierce the three muscles together, and then the peritoneal layer, the parietal peritoneum, and then come into the abdominal cavity. While penetrating the three layers, it forms a canal, right? That canal is like here. Now this canal is actually formed by the three muscle layer, three abdominal muscle layer, and the outer opening of this canal is called as superficial inguinal ring. Ring, opening, superficial means above, upper one, right? And inguinal is the region, the groin region. So this is the opening in the abdomen, that is superficial. The same opening is also be present here inside, through which all these ducts, the ductus deferens, arteries, when they go inside the abdomen. So inner opening is called as the internal inguinal ring, superficial inguinal ring, internal inguinal ring, or deep inguinal ring. Actually it is the deep inguinal ring here, or internal inguinal ring. So between internal inguinal ring and external inguinal ring or superficial inguinal ring, there is a canal, that is the space that where the three muscles of the abdomen, they are penetrating. So from here, this opening penetrating these three walls, while penetrating these three walls, it forms a canal, and then it opens inside the abdominal cavity. So that opening is called internal inguinal ring or deep inguinal ring. Now this is the canal, right? So this is called the inguinal canal with two openings, superficial inguinal opening and deep inguinal opening, external inguinal opening and internal inguinal opening, right? Like this. And this inguinal canal is running parallel to this inguinal ligament. Can you see this ligament from anterior superior iliac point to the pubic tubercle? There is a ligament. So this ligament is actually formed by the infolding of the external oblique muscle again. Now come to the text. It is a collection of structures. Spermatic cord. Now he is talking about spermatic cord. From where to where? Above the testis to the abdominal wall. This is the cord, spermatic cord. It's a collection of structures that passes through the inguinal canal to and from the testis. So from the testis, ductus deferens is coming into the abdomen, and through this cord, testicular artery, testicular veins, and the nerves, they are coming through this spermatic cord towards the testis. So coming to and from the testis, extends from the superior extremity of testis to the deep inguinal ring of the inguinal canal. So superficial inguinal ring, deep inguinal ring, and there is a canal. There is a space between the two openings. There is the area where the contents, they are penetrating the wall, the three walls of the abdomen. Coverings of the spermatic cord, external spermatic fascia coming from the external oblique. So there is the superficial fascia here. Now come here. This picture is also good because this is showing testis covered up by visceral layer of the tunica vaginalis, then parietal layer of tunica vaginalis. So by forceps, they are holding the parietal layer of tunica vaginalis, and this is the tunica vaginalis layer. Then outside the tunica vaginalis, the three coverings of the spermatic cord. The innermost is the internal spermatic fascia, formed by the epineurosis of the innermost layer of the abdominal wall, the transversus abdominis. Then comes the cremasteric muscle and cremasteric fascia, coming as an extension of the internal oblique muscle, the middle layer of the abdominal wall. And then the outer fascia, that is called the external spermatic fascia, coming from the external oblique epineurosis, right? Then after the cord, the skin, and below the skin, superficial fascia and the dartos fascia, dartos muscle, dartos fascia. below the superficial fascia of the skin, right? So dartos fascia and dartos muscle, they are below the skin. They are not the part of the spermatic cord. Now, spermatic cord covering external spermatic fascia, cremasteric muscle and fascia from the internal oblique, and internal spermatic fascia from the fascia of the innermost abdominal wall, the transversus abdominis. Now, this is the slide showing the contents of the spermatic cord. We have discussed the coverings, the layers of the spermatic cord. Now, contents of the spermatic cord. For contents, you can see this testis, the epididymis. From the epididymis, from the tail arises the ductus deferens, and then coming to the testis is the testicular artery, and draining the pampiniform plexus. In the spermatic cord, the testicular veins, right? They are the contents of the spermatic cord. So what are the contents? Ductus deferens, okay, ductus deferens coming from the testis. Then the arteries. We have discussed in this picture previously that there are three arteries going towards the testis and going toward the scrotum. Those are the first testicular artery going to the testis. Then from the testis arises the ductus deferens. So there are differential artery, and third artery is the cremasteric artery. Cremasteric artery supplying the cremasteric layer of the spermatic cord. So in the spermatic cord, we have got three arteries. What? Testicular artery, artery to ductus deferens, and cremasteric artery. So we have got, this is the cut section. This is the cut section of the spermatic cord with its covering, right? So what you can find? Ductus deferens, okay, fine. This is what? Testicular artery, okay, fine. And veins, can you see these veins? These are the testicular pampiniform plexus. There are so many anastomosis, venous anastomosis, right? So many veins you can see here. Then we have got the coverings of the spermatic cord. So this is the cut section of the spermatic cord. Nerves, genital branch of the genitofemoral and sympathetic nerves. So in the nerves, you can find autonomic nerves of the testicular nerve. So autonomic nerves are there, and there are genitofemoral nerve. Genitofemoral nerve. So from genitalia means external genitalia, right? So those nerves are going over there, and then femoral towards the femoral. So the name of the nerve is genitofemoral. This divides into two branches, genital and femoral. So but here it is running in combined form, genitofemoral, as a content of the spermatic cord. Then there are sympathetic autonomic fibers. Now this is the slide showing the vas deferens. Now this is the journey of the vas deferens. Journey means vas deferens, ductus deferens. Where it is? This one. There is the testis, and from the retitestis arises efferent ductules that connects only with the head of the epididymis. Then we have got the body of the epididymis. Then ultimately all converge to form from the tail arises tail of the epididymis. From the tail of the epididymis arises one duct, ductus deferens. It ascends upward. It ascends upward and then run in the spermatic cord. Then it ascends upward outside the body, and then it makes and runs through the inguinal canal. So what is this? This is the inguinal canal. It's mean this is the region where the duct and the spermatic contents, the testicular artery, the testicular veins, the genitofemoral nerves, sometimes here in the inguinal canal, ilioinguinal nerves. So they are all passing and penetrating, piercing the wall of the abdomen to enter into the abdominal cavity. So these are the two openings of the canal, outer or external inguinal ring or superficial inguinal ring. And this is the internal inguinal ring or deep inguinal ring. Between these two rings, there is a canal, right? The area, the distance when they are penetrating the three muscular layer. Now, after this passing, what is this? Vas deferens is 18 inches long and fibromuscular tube. So this tube, ductus deferens, is a fibromuscular tube. It begins at a continuation of epididymis, tail of the epididymis. It conveys mature sperm from the epididymis to the ejaculatory duct and the urethra. Now, where it will go after going upward, passes through the superficial inguinal ring, passes through the inguinal canal, and then comes out into the abdominal cavity through the deep inguinal ring. And when it comes out, it runs on the superior surface of which organ is this? This is the urinary bladder. So it runs on the superior surface of the urinary bladder and then come to the posterior surface of the urinary bladder. Then from the posterior surface, this ductus deferens is go below the urinary bladder and at the back of the urinary bladder where it combines with a gland. This is the seminal vesicle gland where it combines with the seminal vesicle duct. So this is the ampulla. Ampulla is the last distended part of the ductus deferens. So which part of the ductus deferens combined with the seminal vesicle? The ampullary part. The ampullary part combines with the duct of the seminal vesicle to form a single ejaculatory duct. So when these two combine, and these two, we are talking about one-sided testis, let's suppose right testis, right vas deferens, ductus deferens, right seminal vesicle, and right ejaculatory duct. It penetrates inside the prostate gland. Which gland is this? This is the prostate gland that is always present below the urinary bladder in the males. If there is no prostate gland, so it means it's not a region of the male, it's female usually, right? If it is a normal. So what it is carrying, very long journey of this ductus deferens, is carrying mature sperms from the where maturation take place? In the epididymis. What is the maturity? Maturity to swim. It passes through the inguinal canal in the spermatic cord to enter into the pelvic cavity. At the lateral pelvic wall, it crosses the obturator vessel. Obturator vessel, can you see this red artery? What is the name of this artery? Maybe this obturator vessel is here. And the ureter to reach the posterior surface. I'm sorry, this is not the obturator artery. Obturator artery must be here, right? This must be the circumferential arteries, branches of the inguinal arteries that are more relevant with the hernia or appendicitis, right? So it crosses the obturator vessel and the ureter. So ureter, definitely ureter is coming here to the lateral side. So this vas deferens crosses this. So here it crosses the obturator artery and the ureter to reach the posterior surface of the urinary bladder. So it reaches the posterior surface of the urinary bladder. So if you see the view, that is from the posterior view of the urinary bladder and the prostate, so then you find this view. So this slide in continuation the vas deferens. So this is the posterior view of the urinary bladder and the prostate below it. So where is the ductus deferens? This is the ductus deferens coming from both the side, right side, left side. Here the ductus deferens crosses above the ureter. What is this? This is the ureter coming from the kidney and opening into the posterior lateral corners of the urinary bladder. And this ductus deferens, it comes superior or above the ureter. And from the right side and left side, the last part, the last distended part is the ampulla of the ductus deferens. And this ampullary part and this gland, right and left seminal vesicle glands, on each side they combine together before penetrating the prostate gland. So there are two ejaculatory ducts, right and left, coming from the joint effort on the right side by the right ampullary vas deferens and right seminal vesicle and left side. Now the terminal part is dilated to form the ampulla that joins with the duct of the seminal vesicle to form the ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct pierces the prostate gland and opens in the prostatic urethra. Now right and left ejaculatory duct, after penetrating the prostate gland, where they will open, there is a cut part showing the urethra, prostatic urethra. Can you see this one? There is a cut section. There is the urinary bladder from where from the neck of the urinary bladder comes origin of the urethra. So urethra passes down the center of the prostate gland. So this is the prostatic urethra. Then this prostatic urethra passes through a muscle called the urogenital diaphragm, and while passing through the muscle, this portion is called the membranous urethra. Now come to the prostatic urethra. This is the posterior side and this is the seminal vesicle shown here. The ductus deferens ampullary part is not shown here. So ductus deferens and the ampulla, they combine together to form this penetrating ejaculatory duct. Which duct is this that is penetrating inside the prostatic gland? This is the ejaculatory duct. So this is the ejaculatory duct penetrating the prostate gland and opening into the prostatic urethra. Spermatic part of the vas deferens or ductus deferens, which lies in the spermatic cord, is the place where vasectomy is performed. Now, this is a mechanism, vasectomy. Now, this figure is showing that when a person want to become impotent, means he cannot conceive. So, what happens from the testis, epididymis, from the tail of the epididymis arises a ductus deferens, and ductus deferens, along with the testicular artery and testicular veins, they are going in the spermatic cord. So in the spermatic cord, you will find the ductus deferens, right? But ductus deferens is actually acting like a road that carries the sperm, and that sperm will ultimately drain into the urethra, and through the penis it can come out. So this road has to be blocked. So what they have done in the operation surgery, they make an incision in the spermatic cord, find the ductus deferens and make an incision, separate the two ductus deferens, and then they ligate the two ends together. So this mechanism, this procedure is called bilateral vasectomy, a permanent method of birth control. So man cannot conceive never again. Vasectomy is a permanent birth control method in the males. Now this slide is showing the accessory gland. What the accessory gland means? Supporting glands. Seminal vesicle, we have discussed this is seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle is lateral to the ampulla of the ductus deferens. Always remember. And when they both combine, they form the ejaculatory duct that penetrate the prostate gland. Second gland is prostate gland below the neck of the urinary bladder. Then bulbourethral gland. So seminal vesicle, prostate and bulbourethral. Bulbo means bulb is something rounded, bulky part of any structure. Bulbourethral. So urethra is passing in the bulb of the penis. So we can show in the later slide where is the bulb of the penis or bulb of the corpus spongiosum, right? So can you see this gland, bulbourethral gland and ducts? Since all these seminal vesicle, prostatic gland and bulbourethral, they are exocrine glands. So they have a duct coming out. So this gland has a special thing that it is buried within the muscle of the urogenital diaphragm. Just like you say, the diaphragm that is present between the thorax and the abdomen, it is a muscular organ. Same another muscle is there that is called a urogenital diaphragm. It's the diaphragm between the urinary structures and the genital structures. So this is called urogenital diaphragm. Now within this muscle, buried inside, you cannot see outside the muscle the gland, the body of the gland. So this gland that is inside the muscle, urogenital diaphragm, there is the bulbourethral gland, and only the duct comes out from this muscle and opens into the urethra. But that urethra is out of the muscle, so it is not the membranous urethra, it is the penile urethra. So in the penile urethra, in the bulb of the corpus spongiosum, this duct open into the urethra. So this is the importance of this. Now this is a slide that is showing seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle are 2 inches long two lobulated coiled glands, right? So two glands, one on the right side, the other one on the left side. They are 2 inches long, located on the posterior surface of the bladder. There is the superior surface, there is the anterior apex of the bladder, and there is the base of the bladder opposite to the apex, base, the posterior surface, and there is the right and left inferolateral surface. Here this is the lateral inferolateral surface. Now the duct of the each seminal vesicle join the vas deferens to form the ejaculatory duct. Now this is the seminal vesicle, this is the ampulla of the ductus deferens that is coming superior to the ureter, and both of them, they join together to form the ejaculatory duct that penetrate the prostate gland. The seminal vesicles, what is the purpose of seminal vesicle? Role of this gland? It provides sperm with the source of energy and helps with the sperm's motility, ability to move. Now, this area, this ampulla, this is the last part of the vas deferens, and the first part of the last vas deferens or ductus deferens, it is the starting from the tail of the epididymis, and from the tail of the epididymis to the ampulla of the epididymis of the ductus deferens is a very long journey for the sperm. And on its pathway, there is no station, there is no cafeteria. So when they hardly reach at this here before penetrating the prostate, they need energy. They are swimming and they are very tired. So that nourishment is provided by the seminal vesicle in the form of fructose, in the form of glucose, in the form of vitamin C. They are all provided by the seminal vesicle as a secretion. The fluid of the seminal vesicle make up most of the volume of the seminal fluid or ejaculate. Now this seminal vesicle gland, as you can see, that is a big gland, 2 inches long gland. So the semen from the penis, what comes out from the males as a sexual secretion, that secretion is called the semen, right? And that semen in the laboratory is also analyzed for the potency or impotency of the male. So they count the sperm. So that fluid, the complete fluid, that fluid is actually a combination of the 3 glands. And the testis. So testis sending the sperm, then seminal vesicle is also sending its secretion, nourishment. Prostate gland, a big one, it also secrete, and then bulbourethral gland. So 3 glands and 1 testis, they all produce their secretion, and all the secretion come out of the penis. So that come out liquid is called the semen or the ejaculate. Now this is the slide showing the prostate. Prostate is a firm fibromuscular gland, means fibers and the muscles also there, enclosed by a thin inner fibrous capsule, the true capsule, and a strong outer covering of the pelvic fascia. So here in this picture you can see the prostate, and it is covered up by a capsule, a fibrous fascia. So that capsule fascia is called a true capsule or true fascia of the prostate gland. And then there is a pelvic fascia. Pelvic fascia usually run in the pelvic diaphragm. Pelvic diaphragm is formed by this oblique muscle called as levator ani. So levator ani fascia, the fascia of the levator ani is also called as the pelvic fascia. So pelvic fascia also covers the prostate gland. So prostate true fascia and the pelvic fascia. These are the 2 outer facial coverings of the prostate. It is located inferior to the bladder and anterior to the rectum. In the lateral section, you can see this is the prostate gland. This is below the urinary bladder, and where the finger is going, this is the rectum in the males, right? There is no uterus or vagina in the males, so it is not shown. So urinary bladder and rectum. So it is anterior to the rectum and posterior and inferior to the urinary bladder. It is perforated by urethra and the ejaculatory duct. So this prostate gland, can you see this is penetrated? This gland is penetrated by the central tube, the prostatic urethra coming from the neck of the urinary bladder. And on the posterior side, it is also penetrated by 2 ejaculatory ducts, right and left, and the 2 ducts, they open into the prostatic urethra. It consists of numerous glands embedded in the muscular tissue. this prostate gland is further divided into different regions. So one of the region is muscular, and the glands are there. There are so many small glands inside this prostate gland. It is composed of gland, and all the ducts, since it is exocrine, all the small ducts, they're all running and opening along the prostatic urethra. So all along the prostatic urethra, you will find small openings of the prostatic gland. The duct of the glands opens into the prostatic urethra. Okay, this is a slide that is showing prostate gland, benign prostate hypertrophy, hyperplasia. Hyperplasia is a tumor uh, of the prostate gland, and it's a benign type, and it is enlargement of the prostate common in 50 plus age. Now where it happens, actually this prostate gland has different lobes or different zones. Can you see this is divided into this one? This is called as the fibromuscular zone, and then we have got this this transitional zone. This is the central zone. This is the peripheral zone, right? So there are different zones the prostate is divided into, right? And some of the zones, they are particular for the tumor. So this fibromuscular zone, that is very particular for the tumors. So when the tumor is there in the prostate gland, this zone enlarges. And this central one, this transitional one, not the central one, transitional one, is primarily involved in the hypertrophy. So hyperplasia in the fibromuscular zone, or the posterior zone, and the central and this transitional zone, they are for the hypertrophy. Now there is a picture showing when there is a tumor of the prostate gland enlarges, what happens, the urine that is passing from the neck of the bladder into the prostatic urethra, then membranous urethra, and then out. This prostatic urethra is compressed by the enlarged prostatic lobes or zones. So very little urine will go. So it is very difficult for the urine to pass through the prostatic urethra. Now, this is the slide showing bulbourethral gland. As we have discussed, this is the bulbourethral gland called the Cooper's gland. So Cooper's gland or bulbourethral gland is the same thing. Cooper was the scientist and bulbourethral was a location. This part, can you see this red color structure? This is the corpus spongiosum, right? And this part, the bulky part, this is called the bulb of the corpus spongiosum, right? And this is the shaft of the uh, corpus spongiosum, and this again expanded part, this is called the glans penis. Now this is the membranous urethra. This is the muscle is urogenital diaphragm. Inside the muscle buried the body of the gland, bulbourethral gland, and the duct is coming out of the muscle and opens into the bulb of the corpus spongiosum and in the penile urethra. These are the two openings of the two ducts. There are two pea-sized glands located lateral to the membranous part of the urethra. So they are lateral to the membranous part of the urethra inside the urogenital duct. The duct of the gland open into the penile portion of the urethra. So these duct, they open into the penile urethra in the penis. Produce about 10% of seminal fluid. So seminal fluid that comes out, the ultimate liquid that comes out of the penis. Out of that, 10% is produced by this bulbourethral gland, and what I recall, 60% by the seminal vesicle. This fluid serves to lubricate the urethra and to neutralize the acidity of the residual drops of urine in the urethra. Because this is the same tube through which the urine is also passing. So urine is slightly acidic. So when in acid environment, the sperm got killed, right? So just to to save the sperm, these bulbourethral gland, they secrete a secretion that neutralizes, means some basic secretion to neutralize the acidic environment of the urine. So they secrete So there are two purposes: to lubricate for the flow of the sperm and the semen to get out, and simultaneously the acidity should be neutralized. Then this is the slide for the penis. Penis we have got. Can you see this is the very long penis here? Now this penis, if you make a transverse section of this penis, you will come to this structure. So can you see these three big structures? So these two, upper two, they are called as the corpus cavernosum, and the lower single one is called corpus spongiosum, and the center of this corpus spongiosum carries the penile urethra. This penile urethra, right? This is a urethra. So this small tube, this is the penile urethra. Inside which structure, which body? This is the corpus spongiosum. So here corpus spongiosum. Corpus spongiosum. This blue color, this is not the corpus, this is corpus cavernosum. Only this glans penis and the thin membranous part, this is the corpus spongiosum, right? Very straight. So here, which is the central part? This is the corpus spongiosum, bulb of the corpus spongiosum, into which the ducts of the seminal, like bulbourethral gland, Cooper's gland is opening. So this body, corpus means body, spongiosum means spongy. So this is single one body that is on the lower side. This is the inferior view of the penis. So from the inferior view, you will see this duct. So this duct is actually this duct, corpus spongiosum, which is bulb-like on the at its origin, right? So this is called the bulb of the corpus spongiosum, bulb of the penis, and then its expanded part. So this is the glans penis. Expanded part is the glans penis, and then you can see this very membranous, straight up till here. This is the single structure that is called a corpus spongiosum. So corpus spongiosum is expanded upward, that forms the glans penis. So there are two, corpora cavernosa and single corpora spongiosum. So single corpora spongiosum, corpora, corpus singular, corpora plural. So they are corpora cavernosum. So one and two, very big and powerful, larger in size, larger in diameter, and there are two in number. So here you can see this two. This is one, the crus of the corpus cavernosum. Crus means root. So this is another. These crus, they are attached with the pubic symphysis to give the support, because these two, this on one side, this is another side, right? So these two, they are proximally they are attached with the pubic symphysis. In this picture, this is very wonderful picture showing the three corpora, the inferior view of the penis. So this is the corpus spongiosum. In the center we have got urethra, penile urethra. Above this corpus spongiosum, these two are corpus cavernosum, right? These two, in the, you can see there is a central artery is there. Actually the purpose of this corpus cavernosum is to be filled like a balloon with blood, right? And when this balloon is filled, it becomes erected, right? So a very long balloon, if you have seen, and just blow it up, it will erect like a single straight structure. So that's why this, so this one corpus cavernosum is attached with the pubic. There is a pubic bone, there is a ischium. So ischiopubic ramus, they are attached. So this is the crus of the corpus spongiosum, corpus cavernosum, and this is the bulb of the corpus spongiosum. Bulb is present in the single corpus spongiosum, and there are two crusts, right and left one. They are the part of the corpus cavernosum. Now there are other muscles. Corpus spongiosum is attached, is covered by a muscle called bulbospongiosus. So corpus spongiosum is covered by the muscle bulbospongiosus, and corpus cavernosum is covered by the muscle ischiocavernosus. Ischiocavernosus from ischium and cavernosum, right? It has an attached part, root, and a free part, the body. So root, the crust, is the attached part with the ischiopubic ramus, and the free part that erects. The body of the penis is covered entirely by the skin, is formed by the two parts of the corpora cavernosum and free part of the corpus spongiosum. So two corpora cavernosum balloon-like. It is more spongy, and this one is corpus spongiosum central single. Corpus spongiosum expand to form the head of the penis, gland penis. So head of the penis is actually the expanded part, of the single central corpus spongiosum, right? That is the bulb of the corpus spongiosum. Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck.